our agenda for today's session is very simplified. First point, we need to answer ourselves why we require container. First thing which we need to understand. Okay, let me tell you, containerization, this technique is not new, to be honest. We will be working on this technique from last more than 25 years, or you can say when Unix was actually generated, we were working on such kind of techniques. So long time back, I will discuss on that particular point as well. Okay. So why this particular technique is required and why each container is useful for us? What is the purpose of it? The answer is actually hidden in a technique called as software or application development process. I'm not going to discuss what is SDLC and all other things. Normally we will discuss in our Docker specialization, but this is just a webinar. But I will tell you that every application which we are developing nowadays, okay, every application do have a three parts. Am I right? So the first part is nothing but a front end. Second part is nothing but a back end. Third part is nothing but a database. This is the three-tier architecture which we are doing nowadays. Right? Now this is a standard method which we are using in order to design and develop any application nowadays. Now typically I am talking about a web-based applications. Correct? Now before actually this actual software development comes into the picture, we were developing the application with monolithic style. What is a monolithic? If you literally search this word, what is the meaning of monolithic? It is nothing but a large block. Right? So what our development process which we were doing long time back, we are designing the application in a monolithic style. That means everything in a single block. Okay? Whatever application which I want to design, for example, if I am talking about any ERP based application, what we used to do it, whatever ERP part which we have, I believe that as per my understanding, ERP do have multiple parts, but I am only talking about only 4 parts of it. So let's say I'm designing an application where I do have accounting, I do have HR module on it, I do have warehouse management, then I do have vendor management, and there are many more. You can see if I design any ERP based application in monolithic style, I just want to make sure that whatever logic or whatever modules which I want to develop, it should be the part of a large block. That means entire application, whatever I am designing in a monolithic style, all the modules will be act like a single application. It's a big software, you can say. Now the real challenge in this kind of style to design an application, first very important thing is we need to decide what technologies I need to use in order to develop this application. In very early stages, even we are doing it in early stages, but in a other way we have some certain option nowadays, but in previous way whenever we were designing monolithic style, I need to decide each and every technology before I start designing and development that particular application. Correct? Because this is a single block. Frequent development is not possible in monolithic style. If I would like to only design or implement one of the module, I want to improve the service of that. It will be possible, but it is not that much simple, because that particular module is not a single module, because it's a part of the large block. If anything happens into that particular block of that particular application, might be other blocks could not be handled properly. So frequent development is not possible. This software is very huge. Maintenance wise, a lot of activities are needs to be involved. Complex activities are there. So monolithic style is the way we were developing the applications long time back. The only good thing about this type of application that I don't need to worry about all the small modules. Actually, I just simply deployment method. If I think about it, the deployment method is very simple. It's very simple. I just need to deploy this large block. Ultimately, all the modules of that particular block will start. However, this monolithic style, it's nowadays we are not using. Now, I'm just talking about a very high level of thinking about any application. Nowadays, everyone is trying to go for a concept called as microservices. Now, if you are coming from a development background, microservices is another way, or you can say another style to develop an application. In microservices, rather, I will start cutting down this application into a small modules. Okay, rather going as a simple large block, what I will do in a microservices, I will do it something like this. I can have 4 different services. The one which we have discussed, this is accounting service, this is an HR, this is the same ERP which we are talking about, but this time all the modules are actually act like a separate service. Right? So here, rather handling a large block, I need to handle 4 different services if I am developing my application with the help of microservices strategy. Now, microservices is a type of software designing, correct? It's not a development language or something like that. It's a technique. I can use to develop a Java-based application with microservices. I can develop any application in Python with a microservices basis. It's just a style. Okay. Now I know that this all 4 chunks of this application is a part of my ERP. Then definitely these all 4 services are able to talk with each other. The communication should be happening. Am I right? This account service module should talk with HR. Account service module should talk with vendor. It should talk with the warehouse. So I know that these small services which I have created, that means initially monolithic style say everything will be a larger block. Whatever modules you want to develop, it should be deployed and maintained as a single block. Microservice said no, you are not supposed to do that, because here it's very flexible if I develop any application in a microservice strategy, because here every single module is separate. I do have a full technical flexibility and freedom over here, that accounting may be developed in Python, for example, or say something like in Java, and initially I developed in the Java this accounting module, and I do know that there is some limitations. Do some activity while I do it in a Java. But after a certain time, I will come to know that whatever problem which I was doing with this particular language, I can resolve that problem with the help of Python. That means new implementation I can do with the help of this account module. This will not impact any other modules at all. Correct? Now, because of the microservices, there is another technique is developed that is called as API. Okay. Now, this is called as application programming interface. Now, this is how microservices are going to interact and exchange the data between each other. You can see this accounting want to talk with HR module, or HR want to talk with account module. they are using a RESTful API calls. Now this is all development teams can design and develop for you. Correct? So you can imagine that whatever software development which we were doing, okay, that complete style has been changed now. First of all, nobody is going to use standalone application. Everybody want to go for a web-based application. That is the first change which we have. Second change what they have done is that rather doing the development of any application, specifically web-based application, they want to use microservices-based applications. That I got a complete freedom, complete development process is faster. I can only develop a single module, I can update that particular single module, no problem at all, no issues. Correct? So microservices is the best style to develop the application currently which we are using. Slowly, whatever monolithic application was there in the market, we are converting those applications into microservices. Correct? I have been working with a company which is actually dealing with the telecommunications. This is the only sector which they are struggling, to be honest with you, nowadays. They are also trying to change their applications and convert their application into the microservices. Correct? So telecommunication industry is completely working on a monolithic style application. Nowadays they are slowly moving into the microservices strategy. Correct? Banking sector, now if you are using any online banking application, correct, you can imagine whatever you guys are accessing with the help of your mobile app, that is a front end. Correct? Behind the scene there are number of microservices are running for every business logic which can be achieved with the help of that phone app. Correct? So this is the way actually it is started. So initially we were using a monolithic application development. Right now we have changed that method and we were using a microservice. Completely agree, no doubt about that. Correct? Now imagine how I will execute any application. Now what is our purpose? Developer, what developer will do? Developer will develop the application, that means coding part. Correct? Developer will do the coding part. Correct? Then even they will do the build. Correct? They will send that build to the testing. Correct? After the testing is done, we will go for UAT environment, user acceptance testing. Correct? And after we will go for a production environment. This is a very high level overview of any development companies. Okay. Now there are many things which is actually behind the scene. I don't want to discuss at this moment of time. But this is how it works. So every application actually required a concept called as runtime environment. To be honest, in a very simple language, I want to use that application, so I need to deploy that application. I need to provide a runtime environment for that particular application. Correct? Now majorly, if you are using a Java based applications, correct, we are using a Tomcat as an application server. Correct? Because that is the application server which we are using for Java based applications. Even Nginx is one of the application or a proxy, reverse proxy configuration we can use. Correct? So what exactly we are doing over here, whatever software you are designing in a micro-strategic way, every service which you are developing, I need to provide a runtime environment for that service. Correct? For example, let's take an example. The same example we will continue. I developed a module called as accounting. Some developers are working on this module. Correct? This module, some developers are working. Correct? But I need to check whether this module is working or not. So what I supposed to do? What are the runtime environments I can provide you? The first runtime environment I will provide you, that is called as physical servers. Right? What I will do, I will bring a big machine, a server, I will install an operating system on the top of it, correct? Then I will configure or all the necessary softwares I require, for example, Tomcat plus Java, correct? Whatever environmental software we need to do it, I need to provide it. I need to make sure that I should configure few things for this particular server. Then whatever accounting software or whatever build which is created for this microservice, I will put this build into this. But this is only one microservice I'm talking about. You can imagine how many services I can have. Now, technically speaking, there is no maximum number I can go for. Correct? You can chop your application in a smaller chunk as much as you can, but there is a restriction. If you are trying to chop your application in a very small way, there is one more problem comes in a picture, that your API calls, correct? Because API calls are happening over the network. So if you are trying to divide your ERP into 20,000 microservices, technically speaking, yes, it is possible. But you can imagine 20,000 microservices trying to exchange the information over the API calls, then how much network bandwidth they require. So if I want to design an ERP and if I want to do it in a micro-strategic way, definitely I need to restrict the number of microservices as well. Because here I'm just talking about one microservice. The same thing, if I will do it for HR, yes, I need to do something like this. I need to provide a server. I need to provide a server, no problem. But can I provide the same server? Yes, I can do it. But the problem is, if I'm using to run the microservices on the physical server, and if I'm using a single server to run multiple microservices, you can imagine one more problem over here. If by any chance, if this server do gone bad, what will happen? Both the microservices will stop functioning. I'm not saying that entire ERP will goes down, but I will say some part of the ERP, like accounting in HR ERP, module of that particular ERP is not functioning. Why? Because the first runtime environment which I have selected, that is a physical server, and I deployed these two modules on this particular server, and all of a sudden this server is gone bad. Correct? So how to avoid this? You will take one more server. Correct? You will configure the same server in a clustering mechanism. You will configure the same thing. Correct? You will configure exact same environment, Tomcat, OS, Java, everything same server. If this server gone bad, this server will be able to handle it. So this is nothing but a high availability. Absolutely right, no problem. But can I make the scalability in a physical server? All of a sudden, the number of requests this server used to handle is 1000, correct? But all of a sudden, I'm getting 10,000 requests. Can I scale this application easily in the physical server style? No. So if I want the microservices to run on the physical server, yes, you can do that, but the operational cost, correct, is very high. Capital, that is called as OPEX and CAPEX. This is very high. You have to do huge number of investment to make sure that your physical server should be clustered, it should be properly managed and maintained. Scalability still is the problem. Availability you can manage with the help of the clustering technique, but scalability is still the challenge in that case. Correct? Then what is the second option you are coming with? The second option is a beautiful thing. It's called as virtualization. So this is more or less same thing, but here you will get some few extra things on the top of it. Correct? Now the virtualization I'm talking about is called as bare metal virtualization. In bare metal virtualization, what we are doing actually, definitely we are going to have a single hardware, no problem about that, correct? However, here rather going for an operating system, what I will do, I will install an hypervisor. Now hypervisor, you can say it's an operating system for virtualization for our understanding purpose. Correct? And this hypervisor will help us to create a virtual machines. Now virtualization is completely based on virtualization of your hardware devices. So I will create a multiple virtual machines on the top of it. Correct? Each and every virtual machine I am going to create, I will install the OS, I will install the Tomcat and Java, correct? And I will configure the system, no problem. Now here, I will be able to solve some of the problems which I am facing in a physical server. Correct? Here, the scalability is possible that I will create a template of this particular virtual machine, and as much templates which I want to execute it, I will be able to execute it. No problem. So here, high availability and scalability is possible, no doubt about that. The only challenge is here, everything is completely based on virtualization. Correct? Availability and scalability in some extent is possible. Correct? Now that means virtualization is another runtime environment which I can use in order to deploy my microservices and execute it. Clear? So I know that physical server is one of the runtime environment which I am using, but operational cost and investment to maintenance cost of those type of environment is very high. You can imagine if I'm only having 200 microservices and if I want to manage it for only one application, it will be a tedious job if I use the physical server. Virtualization server better than your physical hardware. It will definitely give you the high availability and scalability in some extent, correct? But this virtualization technique is completely based on hardware virtualization. That means actually in bare metal hypervisor or bare metal virtualization, you are trying to create everything, every hardware component virtually. That means hard disk is virtual, NIC is virtual, your CPU is virtual, whatever computing devices do you require to run your operating system, everything will be virtually created with the help of hypervisor. Correct? Virtualization technique completely work on a different methodology. There is a different architecture actually running behind it. Some people ask me, is containerization and virtual things are exactly same? Technically speaking, as an experience, user level experience, you feel that actually containerization virtualization is same, but to be honest it's completely different. The way it works, it's completely different. People ask me that virtualization and containerization is a competition, or you can say they are competitor between each other. Technically speaking, no, there is no competition between virtualization and containerization. It's completely different way to handle the virtual machine. Both the techniques are actually running parallelly hand to hand to provide a better experience in IT environment. Correct? So this is the second type of second type of runtime environment I can provide for my microservices. Now the third and important technique, I will show you in a PPT as well. I will explain it on the note on a paint, and I will show you the PPT how it looks like. Now the third and important method is called as containerization. Now this is the beautiful technique which is developed. It's called as container. Correct? Now, how containerization works? Here, do I require a hardware? Yes, I do. Now, this hardware could be a physical or it could be a virtual machine. I don't know. I don't care, to be honest. Correct? It could be a physical hardware given to me or it could be a virtual machine built on any hypervisor given to me. Correct? What I required a basic OS needs to be installed. Now here typically I will talk about Linux based version. I will tell you why Linux based version. I will come to that. On the top of that, correct, I need to install something. Now in our case, we are talking about so we will install an application called as Docker. Correct. Now if I compare with the same type of things with a virtual machine or virtualization technique, if I say something like this, I will install the hypervisor here. I'm not installing anything called as OS over here. OS will be the part of the machine. But here I'm talking about hypervisor. This is outer box is hardware. This is also hardware. But I install hypervisor in the case of virtualization technique. But in containerization, I use an OS. It could be a Linux based, any flavors which you can think about it. On the top of that, I will create another layer after installing the package called as Docker. There is one more layer called as Docker. In technical, we will call it as Docker D. It's a daemon. It's a process. After that, I will start creating the containerization. So here, I will create multiple instances of containerization. But this container, does it contain any operating system? Technically speaking, no. There is no operating system at all. It is just an application, and whatever libraries and commands you required to run that particular application, only that particular one. This particular application will be running in an isolated box. It does not contain any part of your operating system at all. Correct? It does not contain any kernel, nothing. It's simple a box which contain an application, related binaries to run the application, related configuration to run the application, related commands to run the application, related supported files, folders, whatever required to only run that application, and such box will be running on your this particular environment. Now this technique which we are using, and we can call it as containerization. Correct? Now whatever application running in such a format, he cannot directly talk with your OS layer at all. He will talk with a container engine. We can call it as Docker engine. Whatever application want to talk, he wants some activity to done like a network IO, disk IO, he wants a CPU, everything. He cannot directly talk with the OS kernel at all. He will directly talk with the Docker engine. And Docker engine, on behalf of that container, he will talk with the underlying container. Now this is completely theoretical architectural overview. Now I will show you the PPT. It will be very good for you to understand these three runtime environment. I hope you are able to see the PPT. Kindly put your confirmation messages on the chat box. That's great. You can see this is what we have discussed so far. This is the monolithic, this is what we are talking, correct? Now this is what we are talking about. The physical server is a runtime environment which we are providing. Now if I want to run any particular physical server, I told you the operational cost, capital expenditure are very high. I can still run it, no problem about that. Correct? After that, there is a concept called as virtual machine. I can run the application on the top of virtual machine. Definitely it is better solution than my physical servers. That's completely understandable, no doubt about it, but still it is an overhead of huge machines, because if I create a virtual machines on the top of any hypervisor, the size of the machines are too much, because I need to install each and every component, because I told you virtualization works on a very different methodology. I am going to virtualize the hardware, correct, on the top of my operating system layer is necessary, correct. Now look at this one. This is what we have discussed. Container runs on the top of any particular physical or VM machine, no doubt about it, correct. On the top of that virtual server, I do have an operating system. On the top of that operating system layer, I am using the layer of Docker engine. And on the top of this Docker engine, I just required application to be deployed. And that particular application only contains application itself, necessary binaries, libraries for that, and only configuration part if it is required, correct. So container is something which is a small box. Inside that box, I do have only application installed. Now if I want to configure any microservices, what I will do, whatever microservices build which I have created, whatever configurations which I required, is there any additional libraries and binaries I required, I simply create a small box of it, and I will run that box on the top of any machine where I install the Docker engine, correct. So it is very, very lightweight. It's very easy to start. I can scale that particular container like anything. If I want to run thousands of containers on a single machine, yes, technically it is possible, correct? But depend upon your underlying hardware. If your underlying hardware is actually very hard, then definitely it will help. So technically speaking, theoretically, if I look at my particular microservices, I will say microservices will be running on a box, and that box only contain keys required. Whenever that box want to talk with any underlying hardware or a physical server on which they are running, they do not directly contact with any host operating system at all. They will contact with the Docker engine. Practically, Docker engine on behalf of that, he will be going to talk with you, correct. Now this is a theory. Conceptually, this is how we can explain what is a containerization, but practically this is something very amazing. I will show you, correct. Now before you go into the containerization technique, now this is how the history of this particular thing. We are trying from 1979 the process isolation technique, correct. From there, in 2008 we are successfully able to create a LXCs, that is called as Linux container. Now this is amazing thing. Now you understand what is a container and how beneficial it is and why it is evolved, because I want to run the microservices. Now this is actually happening. What I'm saying here, containers are isolated processes running inside your OS. Now this is practical. If I run the container theory, what theory shows me? Nothing. It is something which is there inside a box, and inside a box I do have a microservices, related binaries, libraries. If I run on a container, actually that particular microservices actually runs. but technically speaking, container are a process. Okay, I will tell you what is that particular process, and I will show you with the help of demo as well. Okay, I hope I will stop the sharing and I will go back to the MS Paint window sharing. Correct? I hope you are able to see the MS Paint window. My statement is very clear. Container is an isolated process. Correct? Now, container development is happened because of three features. The first feature is called as C groups. Second feature is called as namespace. Third is called as union file support. That is, you can in our language it is say overlay, or you can say advanced UFS, union file support. Now, technically speaking, container is nothing but an isolated process running on your Linux-based machine. Basically, these three features, C groups, namespace, and UFS, is Linux kernel features. Linux development guys actually want to create such a process, or they want to create a kernel who can understand these three techniques. Majorly UFS is a storage technique. We will not talk about this in this session. When we are going for a detailed Docker session, we completely have a discussion about Docker internals. But I will tell you why containers are developed because of this. Linux developers want to create such a kernel where any process running on that particular machine, that process himself think that he is working in an isolation environment. My process should not think that there is another process running on the same machine. Correct? So basically Linux kernel developers, after actually Linux kernel version 2.4 onwards, okay, they want to focus on process isolation part. Now you can imagine, if I want to run any process, I need some CPU, some IO, some network bandwidth, multiple things. Correct? This we can call it as resources. Now they want to give you the resources for any process, no problem. Correct? Every operating system will generate a process with the help of a system called as fork. Every process do have resources allocated to them from their kernel, no doubt about that. But here the concept called as C groups. Okay. Now this is the part of systemd. I will practically show you. Whenever any process is running right now on the top of Linux, and all the resource management will be handled with the help of the technique called as C groups. So C groups will help you to control the resources provided to the process. That means how much CPU that process required. There is a CPU limitations, memory limitations, network IO limitations. Correct? Every process required that much kind of resources. And Linux kernel do have a feature called as C groups. With the help of C groups, there is a grouping techniques. We will be able to manage the resources allocated for that particular process. So technically speaking, container is nothing but an isolated process. Whatever process which is running, all the resources will be managed with the help of the technique called a C group, which is a part of the feature in Linux kernel itself. Similar thing, there is a concept called as namespace. Now what my process can see? My process do require some process IDs. My process should require some mount point. Correct? My process should require his host name. His process can only the things which is created for. correct? So understand namespace and C group. These are two Linux kernel feature. These two feature make sure that the process running on the Linux, he himself think that I am completely isolated. I am running alone. Technically speaking, there are thousands of processes running on the same host, but every process will think itself, I'm completely isolated. I got everything isolated. I got my own memory, own CPU, own network name, own process ID information, everything. Now these two techniques are actually developed in Linux kernel. Now why they are developing? Because they want to develop the LXCs. Docker actually took the benefit of this LXCs and developed their own product called as Docker Container. To be honest, Docker Container is, or a Docker software is an abstraction layer to take the benefit of these kernel features. Correct? In early days, Union File System, UFS, now that support was not available directly on a Linux kernel. So in 2013, when Docker was introduced as a containerization tool, that time they used to handle some third-party utilities, correct? But after some time, Linux developer developed their kernel such a way that UFS is also supported. So you can imagine container development is something which is already done long time back. Linux developer want to develop such a kernel where kernel can handle the process request in an isolation way. That's the reason they developed the concept called as C group and namespace. Correct? Someone took the advantage of this feature and developed a product called as. Correct? I will show you practically how actually it works, what I'm talking about. I hope that everybody is able to see my putty session. Whatever I talked about it, it's completely practically or technically possible to see it. I hope that you guys are able to see my putty session, if I'm right. Please put the messages in our chat box if you are able to see my putty session. That's great. So this is my Linux machine. If I say this is my kernel version 3.10, okay, this is a CentOS operating system. Now I blindly install a Docker from my own repository. Technically, you are not supposed to install a Docker in this particular format. Okay, you have to use a proper way to installation. But this is for a training purpose. I am installing this. Now I'll tell you that how these Docker actually took the benefit of the Linux kernel. Okay. Now these are supported binaries which we required. You can carefully check while installing that it installed two different applications. I will let you know. Okay. Now I will start a Docker. This is running. Now what I will do, I will pull some images. Don't worry about that. I just want to tell you the concept of cgroup namespace and union file system. Correct? Because if you understand this bare internal part of it, you will come to know the rest of the commands are very easy to understand. But this is very important. Now I am pulling some images. Now these images are already available on some repository which is available online. Docker is providing a solution called as Docker Hub where you will get all the images. Now, this is the image. Okay, so if I say Docker image ls, this is the image I pulled down from the online repository. Currently this copy of the image is available on my local machine. Correct? I said Docker is taking the benefit of Linux kernel features. I told you practically speaking it's a isolated process running on a same kernel. So what I will do, I will run this container docker run. Now don't worry about this command. I say docker container ls. This container is running. This is my container ID, correct? So if I go inside this container, correct? Can I go inside this container? Yes, you can go for it. Can I go inside a container? Yes, currently I am inside a container which is a part of the CentOS. Now if you can see the CentOS operating system, if you go to the centos.com or centos.org, the size of the operating system is almost almost 10 to 4 to 5 GB if I install it on my machine. But you can imagine currently the size of CentOS container image is few MB, because I only required some binaries, I told you, correct? So if I go inside a container, if I say yes, do I get my own process ID of the container? These are the processes which is running inside my container, correct? The process number is 14 and process number is 27. Where it is running? It is running inside my container, correct? Let's come out of it. Correct. Now I'm once again back to the host. Now if I say ps minus elf, enter. Do you see anything over here? Okay, you know that 14 and 27. Now 27, forget about it. 14 number is the process running inside a container. Correct? Now that is the process number inside a container. But if I look at my host, there is a process running with this particular process ID. Now actually this is my container, correct? You said how it is possible? I will show you. I told you the concept called as C groups, who is going to manage the multiple resources, correct? So there is a concept called as system D. See, is there any container running over here? Do you see? This is the same container ID. Do you see the bin slash bash is the process which was running inside a container, and this is the process ID which is the equivalent container ID which is running on my host, correct? This is the process ID. If you can see ps minus elf 1767. Do you see anything process? Yes. Now this is the magic of your namespaces, that the process ID which was generated inside a container, it's going to be mapped with the process ID running on the host. Now this is the technique which is designed by namespace. There is a namespace called as process ID. This process ID namespace help us that the process itself think it is working on a different isolation. So currently the process number 1767, he himself think that I am running completely in isolated format. He is getting all the resources like CPU. Now this is the CPU information which I got. Similarly, if I want to run something about the memory, I will be getting the memory information as well. Correct? Where is that content? You can see this is the same process ID. So this memory allocation is done, CPU allocation is done for this particular memory already with the help of the technique called as C groups. Correct? Now, what about namespaces? Now, if I say ls minus l doc 1767/ns, we can see these are the namespaces which is managed for that particular process. There are 5 namespaces currently supported by Linux kernel. One is called as IPC, MNT, network, process ID, user, correct, and UTS. UTS means you can think I do have my own separate kernel, correct. User means I do have a dedicated user. So this process himself think I'm completely running in isolated because of the CPU namespaces, correct. Actually, Docker took the advantage of this technique and use his product to manage this. That's it. Behind the scene, he took the advantage of all the concept which is running on the top of this type of enhancement. Now people ask me, does it supported in other Unix environment? Now some of the cases this is much more compatible for Linux environment because the kernel do have this feature and all my container technique is based on this feature. If you talk about Windows, initially till Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 2012, we use actually the Linux kernel to deploy and install the Docker on the top of Windows because Windows kernel does not have these features at all, technically speaking. So what normally we used to do it on Windows, we install the Hyper-V role, we install a small tiny Linux machine on the top of that Hyper-V, and we are using the Docker client utility to run on a Linux based Hyper-V machine. So that was the implementation which was done. Technically speaking, Linux kernel does not have these features, correct? But after Windows 10 and in Windows 2016 server, they introduced some additional kernel features which is same like this, correct? That's the reason it will be very much easy to run Docker on the top of Windows 2016 and Windows 10 operating system. So yes, Windows nowadays does support a Docker without any problem, but you can imagine this is nothing amazing work is done actually. It's a simple concept called a C group and namespace who can isolate your process. So technically speaking, container is just a process, correct? You can see if I try to compare a virtual machine and a container right now, there is no limit. Virtual machine is a complete different technique. Containerization is a complete different technique. Is that clear? So you can imagine every process is generated through Docker, okay, or any container engine. Every process is running in an isolated format. And who is doing this isolation? Resource isolation done with the help of the concept called as C groups. Namespace will do the isolation based on inter-process communication, mountable devices, network, process ID which is generated for that particular container. All these things will be done by namespaces, correct? So understand, because of this, containers are very lightweight because it does not have any kernel, because end of the day they are using the kernel which is already there inside your operating system. The only path to go inside that, they have to go to the Docker, correct? One more interesting thing, if you look at the command called as docker origin, look at this. If you look at this output, the server, whenever I install a Docker on our machine, correct, actually it install two components. The one component is called as server and another component is a client, correct? Now, what is server and what is client? Now, actually, if I say the Docker architecture is a client server model, now whatever command which I am firing right now, okay, that is nothing but a client utility. Correct? So this is how it looks like. I will show you the slide. Normally we will, I will share you the screen. Now this is a simple diagram, I got it. So this is whenever I installed a Docker, I hope you are able to see this PPT. So whenever I install a Docker, Docker will install two components on my machine. A Docker client utility and a Docker engine. Correct? Or you can say Docker server. Correct? Now what is a Docker server? Docker server is nothing but a Docker daemon. There is a Docker D daemon is running on my Linux based machine. I will show you. If I go back to my putty, I will show you. I hope you are able to see the putty screen. If I say ps minus elf, it Docker D. Now there is a Docker D process running. Actually, this is my Docker engine. Correct? This is my Docker engine which is I installed on my particular machine. And what is a Docker client? Docker client is just a Docker command starting with the word called as Docker. Correct? Now this client is actually going to the server with the help of the Unix socket. You can see service Docker status. Okay. There is a Unix socket which is running under this. Okay. This is a Unix socket. That means my current client install on the same machine, server is on the same machine, Docker client is talking to the Docker server with the help of Unix socket. Correct? So there are two components normally working in a client and server mode. So this is a client communicating with the server. Server means a Docker daemon which is called as Docker. Correct? Now normally people ask me, is it a free version? Now there are two different variants actually coming in a Docker. Okay. The first version is called as Docker Community Based Edition. Now whatever I downloaded right now from my operating system repository, that is actually Docker Community Based Edition. Okay. So that Community Based Edition is completely free. You can say it's an open source edition. The second variant which comes along with additional support, okay, there are a lot of security enterprise support will be there, that is called as Docker Enterprise Edition. Correct? Some people ask me, the functionality wise both are equal. Yes, both are technically equal, but support, the product support is not available. There are some additional enhanced security support is available for Docker Enterprise. That support is not directly available in a community edition. You have to configure a lot of things on the Docker. Correct? So you can see Docker architecture is pretty straightforward. Docker server will be there, Docker client will be there. Whatever commands you are executing, that commands are executing on a client. It will go to the server with the help of the communication which is called as Unix socket. Correct? And Docker server or Docker engine will do the job for you. He is a heart of that particular containerization technique. Pulling the image, running that image and convert it into the container. Every activity will be done by Docker engine. Client is simply executing the command. That's it. Correct? Now, one more interesting thing I would like to talk about. Whenever the Docker was actually in the development process, they are taking the benefit of these features. Their first concept is to introduce a cloud-based solution. Correct? Solomon is the one, the name of that person is called Solomon, who designed and developed this particular product. This product is completely designed and developed in a Go language. Correct? Now, his main agenda was to design a cloud-based solution where people can come and deploy their services. Correct? Unfortunately, that solution was not worked for him. And after that, he designed a Docker as a container engine solution. Now, people ask me, is it better to use LXCs or to use Docker? Now, LXCs is actually the same, because Docker is working with LXCs behind the scene, technically speaking. But to handle the LXCs is little bit complex, correct? That's why Docker, as compared to Docker, is very straightforward, very simple, lot of support, lot of enhancement, abstraction software they have introduced. That's why it is better to use directly Docker. But if you do not want to use a Docker, if you want to use only LXC part, yes, you can do that, no problem. But clustering feature, Docker Compose, stacking feature, is those advanced features are not available in the LXCs at this moment of time. Correct? Maybe in future they are going to slowly develop the LXCs as well. But this is the first solution which Docker is introduced, called as Docker Engine. I told you Docker Engine is nothing but it's a technique with the help of you can create the container. Correct? Second thing, they introduce a product called as Docker Hub. Docker Hub, it's nothing but a cloud-based repository is available where I can put my all the open source images. Their concept was very simple. Build the image, ship the image, and run the image. Docker concept was very clear. Build your own image, upload it onto the Docker Hub, pull that particular image and run it. No problem. So 90% open source images, official, okay? I said 90% official images technically available on the Docker Hub. It's a free Docker based cloud solution is available. If you want to create your private repository on a Docker Hub, yes, that is also possible, but you have to pay for that particular number of repository you want. But in real life, people are not using a Docker Hub solution at all. People should create their internal repository. So yes, in corporate, we are not using a public repository, whether they will assure you that your images are actually secured, it is practically protected with their cloud-based solution, but still corporate companies do not use such solution. They should have their own internal Docker server, or you can say Docker server, Docker Hub kind of solution is available. Yes, you can use that particular solution within your organization to share the images. Now I told you, what does the image contain? Your image contain only your application, correct? Whatever necessary libraries you required, not necessary binaries you required, necessary configuration is required, that's it. Combine this together and create an image out of it and upload it inside your internal repository. Then anybody who want to use that image, they can pull that image down and you can use it. No doubt about that. Correct? So you can see Docker is actually a company as well as a product who can give you the solution to run the container, create an image, upload those images into centralized place and use that images whenever you want. Correct? So this is what Docker is made for. So if I want to rewind all the things which we have seen, you can see this particular journey was started because microservices based technique was introduced in application development. People have started developing their application with that style. So every microservice is a small part or small chunk of your application. I want to provide runtime environment for that application. Yes, I do have a physical server where I can run this microservices. No doubt that solution is available, but operational cost or capital expenditure to run this microservices is very difficult for me. Then I do have a solution called as virtual machine. I will run my microservices into multiple virtual machines. So some sort of flexibility is there inside virtual machine techniques, where I will provide you high availability and some extent scalability is also available when I want to use virtual machine to run microservices. Do not compare virtual machines and container. I told you container is practically speaking an isolated process only. But if you see the virtual machine is something different. Virtual machine is nothing but virtualized hardware on which I will install the licensed operating system and I will run that entire stuff. Here in containerization, what they have done, initially Linux developer want to develop such a system where they want to run their processes in an isolation format. They have been working on this technique from 1979. In 2008, they introduced a technique called as C groups and namespace, where on the Linux kernel 2.4 onwards, every process which you are running with the help of this technique will be completely isolated. C group is a kernel feature where he will be able to manage all the resources which is required for that particular process. Namespace is a kernel feature where process himself think that I do have my own process ID, I do have own user, I can mount my own system, I do have my own kernel, correct? My process thinks that. If my process himself thinking something like this with the help of namespace, that means the isolation of the process can be achieved. So what Alexis is developed in 2008. So this technique was developed on the top of Linux kernel. Docker come in 2013 who actually take the benefit of these three features. Union file system was not introduced in 2008. Actually, it was introduced after 4 or 5 years after that. Till that time, Docker was using UFS support some external binaries. That feature was not introduced in a Linux kernel at all. But in recent year, we do have a device mapper, overlay to such kind of drivers are developed and supported by Linux kernel nowadays. So this is actually the journey of Docker. So Docker concept was very clear. They want to build the image. I told you what does the image contain. Now there are multiple techniques are available who can use to build the image. Ship that particular image, that means upload that image into the centralized repository. So that repository could be a private repository which you can use within your organization, and you can pull that particular image on your particular local machine and you can run it and create a container. So I said I use two terms, image and container. Image is nothing but a file which is an operating system level, but whenever I took that file on my local machine and if I run that particular file, it will become a container. So container is nothing but a running form of the image. Now this is the technical definition. Practically what we can see, it's an isolated process running behind the scene. Now whenever I told you, whenever you install a Docker as a binary, it will install two components. By default, it will install a server, it will install a Docker client. Docker client is something which is a client utility. Whatever Docker command which you are executing, technically that is my client utility. Docker server, Docker engine, it's nothing but a daemon which is running on my system by the name of Docker D. So if anything you want to execute my client utility directly talking with my particular Docker engine, correct? With the help of Unix socket which is running on my machine, correct? So whenever I am firing the command called as Docker pull, the name of the image, that client utility going to my server will go to the repository which is by default online, and he will pull down that particular image from the repository. So the concept wise, it's very beautiful technique. It's very simple to manage it. It's very easy to multiply your containers, correct? Microservices based application technically use majority of companies are using Docker community based edition, correct? Because community based edition is also a stable edition, but support is not available. Docker Enterprise Edition, yes, product support is available. Some security enhancement support is also available. Even they will help you to secure your images as well. If you provide the images, they will put the certificate on the top of it. So these are additional benefits are available if you are using Docker Enterprise Edition. One more point I told you, all the container technique use the kernel feature. Now such kernel features are not available on the top of Windows. So if you want to use a Docker feature on the top of Windows based operating system, make sure that you should have at least Windows 10 or Windows 16 onwards. It works with a very stable technique. Some people ask me that can I run Windows based images on a Linux based machine? Technically speaking, no. If I install the Linux based Docker on the Linux machine, if I try to run any Windows image, technically speaking, it's not going to work. Okay. If I do the vice versa, if I install the container on Windows machine, and if I try to pull down any Linux based image on the Windows host and try to run it, is it possible to run? Yes, because in Windows they are whenever you install Docker on Windows, he will give you two features on the top of it. Either you can run the Linux based container or either you can use the Windows based container. So you have to choose either one of them if I want to install the Docker on the top of Windows. Correct? So I hope you understand the concept. Now we have a limited time to share everything, because basically whenever we are delivering the Docker session for corporate batches where project related people who require to understand how they can work. So that time we are actually going step by step, deep dive into the Docker, how we can put security secrets into the Docker, every practical and everything. But we do have just a session right now where we can only give you the brief overview of this particular technique. So there are multiple commands are there, multiple techniques are there which we can use it. There is a clustering solution, there is a Docker Compose is the solution, Docker UCP is there, Docker Secret is there. So there are multiple techniques which we can use to make sure that your entire application should work properly. Correct? So I hope everything is clear. Recording is available, no problem at all. Correct? Even I will share the PPT. This is a small PPT is available. You can have a look on this particular PPT. This is simple overview which I gave you. Correct? Whatever questions which you have, okay, whatever questions which you have related any particular related with the Docker or any standard techniques which you want to ask me, you can drop me a mail, no doubt about it, because we are about to stop right now because it's again a 10-minute session. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can, I will give you my email, no problem at all. This session is available over recording is available, no doubt about it. If you have any doubts, any questions regarding the container technique, definitely you will go for it. Okay. Let me share one more important thing for you. Okay, now most of the time people are looking for, I hope you are able to see my screen where I'm showing the PPT. Now, if you want to go ahead and find out a completion certificate for this particular webinar, you can kindly go to this link which is available on the PPT and follow this particular step. You need to put the feedback. You need to attend all these 3 sessions which is arranged for you. Once you have done this particular thing, you will get a course completion or webinar completion certificate for InfoSec Train. Correct? If you want further any additional details, you can contact with us on the InfoSec, but all the details will be provided to you. We will definitely help you to support in that particular case as well. Okay, Piyush is asking me what is a Kubernetes cluster and how we can use Docker container over there. Correct? Piyush, Kubernetes is on the top of Docker. Kubernetes is providing you clustering solution. It is providing you load balancing solution. It is providing you deployment solution. It is providing you scalability solution, fault tolerance solution. We do have another Kubernetes webinar where you will come to understand there is another abstraction layer called as Kubernetes who is actually handling the containers only. Correct? Now, whether it could be a Docker container or whether it could be a RKT. Correct? We will have a session tomorrow on the top of Kubernetes. It's again, once again, a complex architecture and where you are using a Docker container with the help of some other abstraction layer called as Kubernetes. Okay. There is one more interesting thing. Docker is currently the lightweight container technique which we are using. Correct? Because I told you, just contain your microservices and related binaries, nothing else. Correct? There is one more lighter solution is available that is called as Rocket. Rocket, currently it is not in a production at this moment of time, but yes, technically I have tried it. It is much more lighter than your actual Docker. So that is a core OS solution which will be available maybe after year and a half. They will be completely make sure that product is secure, but it is much more lightweight. No, Kubernetes is also an overview session, I believe so. There is Kubernetes, to be honest with you, Docker. If I want to deliver a Docker, I will deliver a Docker in one day, or it requires 10 days to deliver a Docker. Docker will not finish. Same thing for the Kubernetes. If you are talking with the Kubernetes architecture, Kubernetes installation methods, it's a huge gap. But in this particular webinar, we will give you the brief overview where you can start with. So if you want, very eager to understand, you will definitely start with this particular session. So currently you don't have a confusion. Normally people, whenever we started talking about C group, namespaces, union file system support, how this is lightweight, what is the behind the scene which is happening, people will get a lot of confusion over here. Correct? So we will give you the start. We will give you the idea, okay, you can start reading about this, you will be able to read somewhere. Correct? So webinar will give you the start. Complete idea will not be possible in this particular webinar session. You have to go for a specialized training for that. Okay? And whatever questions which you have, I already sent you an email address. If you have any queries regarding that, you can definitely mail me too. No problem about that. Is there any doubt regarding this Docker? Okay, somebody, okay. Jayant, I believe that you got your answer if you are available. Windows OS does not support. I told you that Windows OS does support it because they have done a lot of modification into their own kernel. But after Windows 10 and Windows 2016, full support of containerization techniques are available. Okay, so I told you that. Okay, so if you can go to the docker.io There is a complete details about Windows operating system and how you can run Docker on the top of Windows. It's technically possible. Correct? Gautam asked me that are there varieties of Docker available in this market or it's fixed? Now varieties means I believe that you are asking for different type of variant in a Docker. Right? Majorly there are two type of variants are available as I told you, that Docker community based edition which is completely free, 99% of the public are using the same. Correct? Docker Enterprise Edition, yes, it is also available. If you want to have a complete idea about how Docker Enterprise Edition work, it's completely free for 1 month trial. You can directly log into the Docker Hub. You will get a license key and you will be able to use that Docker Enterprise Edition for 1 month free of cost. Correct? But after that, if you start running more than 10 containers, up to 10 containers, it's free. No doubt about that. But after that, if you try to run any particular container, you will be get charged for that, and that is not a one-time charge, it's a recurring charges. How many number of containers which you are running. So there are different type of options are available. Correct? So these are the two type of options are available with the help of that. You can use the Docker in your enterprise environment. But I have seen a majority of customers who want to use Docker for their production environment. They are technically speaking Docker community based edition. Correct? They certified their own images. They are going to run, they are going to deploy their own internal Docker repository. That is also a free solution which is provided by Docker only. So they are using all the community based edition. Still so far there is no problem. I told you Docker Enterprise Edition, they will give the product support and additional security support is available. Docker community direct support is not available. You cannot get images certified from them. You have